Here are the rules that correspond to each correction, along with the examples. 1. Subordinating conjunctions. Rule: a subordinating conjunction, for example, although, because, since, introduces a dependent clause. The dependent clause cannot stand alone as a sentence. Example: incorrect. It was raining, although we went for a walk. Correct. Although it was raining, we went for a walk. Explanation: the subordinating conjunction, although, must come at the beginning of the dependent clause, not incorrectly connect two independent clauses. 2. Punctuation with dependent clauses. Rule: when the dependent clause comes first, it should be followed by a comma. When the independent clause comes first, no comma is needed. Example: incorrect. We missed the bus because he was late. Correct. We missed the bus because he was late. Explanation: in this case, because he was late is the dependent clause and it follows the independent clause. No comma is needed before because. 3. Relative clauses: who, which, that. Rule: use who for people, which for objects or animals, and that for restrictive clauses involving either people or things. Example: incorrect. The man which I saw was tall. Correct. The man who I saw was tall. Explanation: which is incorrectly used for a person. Who should be used to refer to people. 4. Avoiding sentence fragments. Rule: a dependent clause, which starts with words like because, although, etc., cannot stand alone as a sentence and must be combined with an independent clause. Example: incorrect. Because it was cold. Correct. Because it was cold, I wore a jacket. Explanation: a dependent clause, like because it was cold, needs to be connected to an independent clause to make a complete sentence. 5. Subject-verb. Agreement in complex sentences. Rule: the verb must agree with the subject of the sentence, even if there is extra information, for example, a relative clause between the subject and the verb. Example: incorrect. The students who was tired is going home. Correct. The students who were tired are going home. Explanation: the subject students is plural, so the verbs were and are must also be plural. 6. Tense consistency. Rule: maintain the same tense within the sentence unless a change in time is required. Example: incorrect. Since she moved to New York, she is working at a tech company. Correct. Since she moved to New York, she has been working at a tech company. Explanation: the incorrect sentence shifts from past tense, moved, to present tense, is working, without reason. The correct sentence uses the present perfect continuous, has been working, for actions that started in the past and continue. 7. Parallelism in complex sentences. Rule: when listing actions or objects, they must be in parallel grammatical forms, for example, all verbs in gerund or infinitive form. Example: incorrect. She enjoys reading books, watching movies, and to take long walks. Correct. She enjoys reading books, watching movies, and taking long walks. Explanation: to maintain parallel structure, all items in the list should be in the same form. Reading, watching, and taking are all gerunds. 8. Non-restrictive versus restrictive clauses. Rule: a restrictive clause, essential information, does not need commas, while a non-restrictive clause, extra information, is separated by commas. Example: incorrect. The man who lives next door is my friend. Correct. The man who lives next door is my friend. Explanation: who lives next door is essential to identifying which man, so it is a restrictive clause and should not have commas. 9. Misplaced modifiers. Rule: modifiers, adjectives, adverbs, phrases, should be placed next to the word they are describing to avoid confusion. Example: incorrect. Running to catch the bus, the rain soaked him. Correct. Running to catch the bus, he was soaked by the rain. Explanation: in the incorrect sentence, it seems like the rain is running, which creates confusion. The correct sentence clarifies that he is running, not the rain. 10. Dangling modifiers. Rule: a dangling modifier occurs when the subject being modified is missing from the sentence. Ensure the subject of the modifier is clearly stated. Example: incorrect. After studying all night, the exam was difficult. Correct. After studying all night, I found the exam difficult. Explanation: the incorrect sentence implies that the exam studied all night. The subject, I, needs to be added to clarify who was studying. 11. Comparisons. Ambiguous comparisons. Rule: ensure that comparisons are clear and complete to avoid ambiguity. Example: incorrect. She likes her dog more than her sister. Correct. She likes her dog more than her sister does. Or, she likes her dog more than she likes her sister. Explanation: the incorrect sentence is ambiguous. It's unclear whether she likes her dog more than her sister likes the dog, or more than she likes her sister. The correct sentence clarifies the intended meaning by adding does or completing the comparison. 12. Conditional sentences. Mixed conditionals. Rule: mixed conditionals combine two time frames. The if clause uses one tense, often past, while the result clause uses a different tense, often present or future. Example: incorrect. If I had studied harder, I would pass the test. Correct. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the test. Explanation: the incorrect sentence mixes past and present incorrectly. The correct sentence uses the past perfect, had studied, for the condition and the past conditional, would have passed, for the result. 13. Correlative conjunctions. Rule: when using correlative conjunctions, either or, neither nor, not only, but also, make sure the sentence elements connected by them are parallel. Example: incorrect. She is either going to the concert or she will stay home. Correct. She is either going to the concert or staying home. Explanation: the incorrect sentence connects two phrases that are not parallel. The correct sentence maintains parallelism by using two verb phrases, going and staying. 14. Pronoun reference. Ambiguous pronouns. Rule: make sure pronouns clearly refer to specific nouns, avoiding vague or ambiguous references. Example: incorrect. John told Peter that he was late. Correct. John told Peter that Peter was late. Or, John told Peter that he was late. Explanation: in the incorrect sentence, it is unclear whether he refers to John or Peter. The correct sentence specifies which person he refers to. 15. Double negatives. Rule: avoid using double negatives in standard English because they cancel each other out and create a positive meaning. Example: incorrect. She doesn't need no help. Correct. She doesn't need any help. Explanation: in the incorrect sentence, doesn't and no form a double negative, which is incorrect. The correct sentence uses any to keep the sentence negative. 16. Clauses of purpose, infinitive versus for. Rule: use infinitive forms to verb to express purpose rather than for verb. Example: incorrect. She went to the store for buying groceries. Correct. She went to the store to buy groceries. Explanation: in English, the infinitive, to buy, is used to express purpose, not for, followed by a verb. For is typically followed by a noun. 17. Faulty coordination. Rule: avoid faulty coordination where two unequal ideas are joined by coordinating conjunctions, like and or but. Example: Incorrect. I was tired and I didn't like the movie. Correct. I was tired and so I didn't like the movie. Explanation. The incorrect sentence uses and to connect two unequal ideas, but they are cause and effect related. The correct sentence uses so to show that being tired caused the speaker to dislike the movie. 18. Expletive constructions. Rule. Avoid starting sentences with there is, are, it is, or similar expletive constructions when they can be more effectively expressed with a more direct subject. Example. Incorrect. There are many reasons why I dislike winter. Correct. Many reasons exist for why I dislike winter. Explanation. The incorrect version uses an expletive construction that weakens the sentence. The correct version places the subject, many reasons, at the beginning for clarity and impact. 19. Inversion in conditional sentences. Rule. In formal writing, conditional sentences can sometimes use inversion, that is, placing the auxiliary verb before the subject, instead of if. Example. Incorrect. If I were you, I would take the job. Correct. Were I you, I would take the job. Explanation. The incorrect sentence uses the common conditional structure. The correct version uses inversion to create a more formal tone. 20. Infinitive phrases as subjects. Rule. Infinitive phrases can act as subjects, but they should be used correctly to avoid confusion. Example. Incorrect. To go to the store is what I like. Correct. What I like is to go to the store. Explanation. The incorrect sentence places the infinitive phrase awkwardly, making the sentence confusing. The correct version clarifies the subject by rearranging the sentence. 21. Compound complex sentences. Rule. A compound complex sentence must contain at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Ensure clarity in conjunction use. Example. Incorrect. Although I like pizza, I can eat other food. I don't like sushi. Correct. Although I like pizza, I can eat other food, but I don't like sushi. Explanation. The incorrect version lacks a proper conjunction to connect the independent clauses. The correct version uses but to clarify the relationship between the clauses. 22. Avoiding repetition. Rule. To improve fluency and style, avoid unnecessary repetition of words or phrases within a complex sentence. Example. Incorrect. He said that he would go to the store if he would go to the store. Correct. He said that he would go to the store if he could. Explanation. The incorrect sentence repeats, go to the store. The correct version eliminates the redundancy, improving the clarity and flow of the sentence. 23. Using like versus as. Rule. Use as when making comparisons involving a role or function, and like for simple comparisons. Example. Incorrect. He acts like a leader. Correct. He acts as a leader. Explanation. The incorrect version uses like incorrectly for a role. As is appropriate here since it indicates the function he is performing. 24. Avoiding overly complex sentences. Rule. While complex sentences can convey nuanced ideas, avoid making them overly convoluted, which can lead to confusion. Example. Incorrect. The cat that was chasing the mouse, which was running across the street, suddenly stopped when it saw a dog. Correct. The cat stopped suddenly when it saw a dog chasing the mouse across the street. Explanation. The incorrect sentence has excessive clauses that make it hard to follow. The correct sentence simplifies the structure while maintaining clarity. 25. Use of ellipsis. Rule. In complex sentences, ellipsis can be used to avoid redundancy, but it should be clear what is omitted. Example. Incorrect. He likes football and he likes basketball. Correct. He likes football and she basketball. Explanation. The incorrect sentence is clear but redundant. The correct sentence demonstrates the use of ellipsis by omitting the repeated verb likes, but it may not be fully clear to all readers. Context is crucial. 26. Pronoun case. Rule: ensure you use the correct pronoun case, subjective, objective, possessive, based on its function in the sentence. Example: incorrect. Me and John went to the store. Correct. John and I went to the store. Explanation: the incorrect sentence uses me as the subject, which is incorrect. The correct version uses the subjective case, I. 27. Conditional clauses with unless. Rule: unless implies a negative condition, so ensure clarity when using it in complex sentences. Example: incorrect. I will go to the party unless I am invited. Correct. I will not go to the party unless I am invited. Explanation: the incorrect sentence is misleading because it suggests that the speaker will go regardless of the invitation. The correct version clarifies that going to the party is conditional on being invited. 28. Adverbial clauses of concession. Rule: use adverbial clauses of concession. For example, although, though, even though, correctly to show contrast. Example: incorrect. He went for a run, although it was raining heavily. Correct. Although it was raining heavily, he went for a run. Explanation: the incorrect sentence places the dependent clause after the independent clause without a proper transitional flow. The correct version places the concession clause first, enhancing clarity. 29. Causative verbs in complex sentences. Rule: when using causative verbs like make, have, or let, the structure of the sentence should reflect proper grammatical use. Example: incorrect. She made him to cry. Correct. She made him cry. Explanation: the incorrect sentence uses to unnecessarily. Causative verbs like make are followed directly by the object and the base form of the verb. 30. Using whether versus if. Rule: use whether when presenting alternatives or choices, and if for conditional clauses. Example: incorrect. I don't know if he will come or not. Correct. I don't know whether he will come or not. Explanation: the incorrect sentence uses if when whether is needed to clarify the alternatives being considered. 31. Correcting wish clauses. Rule: use wish clauses to express desires about the present, past, or future correctly, adhering to the appropriate verb forms. Example: incorrect. I wish I was taller. Correct. I wish I were taller. Explanation: in formal English, were is used for hypothetical situations with wish, even with singular subjects. 32. Using as for comparisons. Rule: use as to compare two equal elements correctly in a sentence. Example: incorrect. She sings as good as her sister. Correct. She sings as well as her sister. Explanation: good is an adjective, while well is an adverb. The correct structure uses the adverb to modify the verb sings. 33. Adverbial clauses of time. Rule: when using adverbial clauses of time, for example, when, while, before, after, ensure correct punctuation and order for clarity. Example: incorrect. He called me while I was cooking dinner. Correct. While I was cooking dinner, he called me. Explanation: the incorrect version lacks a comma when the dependent clause precedes the independent clause. The correct version clarifies the sequence of actions with appropriate punctuation. 34. Use of though versus although. Rule: though can be used informally at the end of a sentence, while although is more formal and should not be used this way. Example: incorrect. I like chocolate, although. Correct. I like chocolate, though. Explanation. The incorrect version uses although inappropriately at the end of a sentence. The correct version uses though to maintain informal clarity. 35. Indirect speech in complex sentences. Rule. When converting direct speech to indirect speech, maintain proper tense and pronoun agreement. Example. Incorrect. She said, I am going to the store. She said she was going to the store. Correct. She said that she was going to the store. Explanation. The incorrect sentence has repetitive phrases and improperly punctuated direct speech. The correct version uses that to introduce the indirect statement clearly. 36. Using who versus whom. Rule. Use who as the subject of a verb and whom as the object of a verb or preposition. Example. Incorrect. Who did you give the book to? Correct. Whom did you give the book to? Explanation. The incorrect sentence uses who in the object position. The correct version uses whom to indicate the object of the verb. 37. Conjunctions in negative sentences. Rule. Use conjunctions correctly in negative sentences to avoid ambiguity. Example. Incorrect. I don't like chocolate and vanilla. Correct. I don't like chocolate or vanilla. Explanation. The incorrect version implies the speaker does not like both flavors but is ambiguous. The correct version clarifies the choice between the two flavors using or. 38. Nested clauses. Rule. Ensure clarity when using nested clauses by keeping the structure straightforward and avoiding excessive embedding. Example. Incorrect. The book that I borrowed from the library that has a blue cover is on the table. Correct. The book on the table is the one that I borrowed from the library. Explanation. The incorrect sentence is too convoluted, making it hard to understand. The correct version simplifies the structure for clarity. 39. Correctly placing appositives. Rule. Use appositives to add information about a noun and ensure correct punctuation is used to set them off. Example. Incorrect. My brother who lives in New York is coming to visit. Correct. My brother who lives in New York is coming to visit. Explanation. The incorrect sentence lacks commas to indicate that the information is non-restrictive. The correct version uses commas to separate the appositive. 40. Using participial phrases correctly. Rule. Ensure that participial phrases are placed next to the noun they modify to avoid confusion. Example. Incorrect. Walking down the street, the flowers caught her attention. Correct. Walking down the street, she noticed the flowers. Explanation. The incorrect version implies that the flowers are walking down the street. The correct version clarifies who is walking. Complex sentences in advanced English providing clarity and grammatical accuracy in writing and speaking.